Good morning, my name is Sarah.
And I'm Janaya. We are the Masters of Ceremonies for today's service.
It doesn't take much to remember our veterans and their sacrifice. As the video reminded us, it can be just simple things like wearing a poppy and pausing to reflect for a few short moments.
And that is what we're going to do today. Before we start, we would like to specifically highlight the role of Indigenous peoples who have served in Canada's military and honor them by doing our land acknowledgement.
Ezreen will share the English version and then Jameer will say it in French. Please stand.
Oh, dang.
We would like to acknowledge that this school is situated upon traditional territories. The territories include the Wendat Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Mississauga of the New Credit First Nation, and the Métis Nation. We also recognize the enduring presence of Indigenous people on this land.
Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes acquis sur les terres de Mississauga, de Anishinaabe, de la Confédération Haudenosaunee et du Wendat. Nous voulons également reconnaître la pérennité de la présence des Premières Nations, du Métis et du Inuit.
Please continue standing as we listen as Nyla plays O Canada and the flags are brought to the front by Mustafa and Eunice.
Please be seated.
Asseyez-vous, s'il vous plaît. Thank you to Nyla and the students who signed the anthem. We would now like to welcome Mr. Nyarkos to the stage to open today's ceremony.
At Donview, we have made it our practice to set aside time on November 11th for the whole school to pause and consider the significance of Remembrance Day. Unlike most special occasions, this one is not a celebration. Remembrance Day is a somber reminder of the horror of war, the cost in human suffering of historical conflicts, and the debt we owe to those who sacrificed their lives in these causes. Most importantly, it is a call to see the ongoing face of war in our world and to teach a new generation that taking up arms should be the last resort in resolving any conflict. These wars and conflicts touch the lives of Canadians of all ages, all races, all social classes. Fathers, sons, daughters, sweethearts. They were killed in action, they were wounded, and thousands who returned were forced to live the rest of their lives with the physical and mental scars of war. The people who stayed in Canada also served in factories, in voluntary service organizations, wherever they were needed. Yet for many of us, war is a phenomenon seen through the lens of a television camera or a journalist's account of fighting in distant parts of the world. For those of us born during peacetime, all wars seem far removed from our daily lives. We often take for granted our Canadian values and institutions, our freedom to participate in cultural and political events, and our right to live under a government of our choice. The Canadians who went off to war in distant lands went in the belief that the values and beliefs enjoyed by Canadians were being threatened. They truly believed that without freedom, there can be no ensuring peace, and without peace, no enduring freedom. By remembering their service and their sacrifice, we recognize the tradition of freedom these men and women fought to preserve. They believed that their actions in the present would make a significant difference for the future, but it is up to us to ensure that their dream of peace is realized. On Remembrance Day, we acknowledge the courage and sacrifice of those who serve their country and acknowledge our responsibility to work for the peace they fought hard to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nyarkos. Harnor and Fatima will now explain to us why Remembrance Day is celebrated.
Why Remembrance Day is celebrated. This year marks the 106th anniversary of the end of the First World War. This war lasted from 1914 to 1918, and during this period, 650,000 men and women served in Canada's armed forces. More than 1 in 10 never returned. Canada emerged from the First World War as an internationally respected and independent nation. Due to the effort of thousands of Canadians on November 11th, Canadians all across the country stop and pay tribute to the men and women killed in Canada's wars and military operations. The years of the First and Second World Wars were very dark times for Canadians. Yet in all provinces and territories, women and men pulled together to ensure that freedoms we all take for granted were not trampled and snuffed out. Soldiers and vets come from all walks of life. Indigenous peoples, recent immigrants, Black Canadians, and many others are honored today for their service and sacrifice. Remembrance Day provides the opportunity for all of us to reflect and be proud of what our ancestors accomplished. The Canadians who died believed in a better future. It is our job to make sure that future is a future of peace.
Tres Ben Hanur and Fatima. Class 7B will now present an interpretation of the poem First They Came by Pastor Martin Niemöller.
This poem was written during the Second World War after the pastor had been arrested, and it reminds us that we must not ignore oppression.
First they came for the colonists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unions, And I did not speak out because I was not a trade union. Then they came for the Jews. And I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me. What? And there was no one left to speak out for me. Cut. Right.
Thank you, class.
Mic check.
Mic check. Mic.
Mic check. Okay.
Mic check. Okay. Thank you, class 7B. Now Alexia and Yara will explain why we wear a poppy on this day.
Why we wear a poppy? On Remembrance Day, everyone wears a poppy as a reminder of the blood-red flower that grew on the battlefields of France and Belgium, where many soldiers gave up their lives.
Much of the fighting during World War I was done in a place called Flanders. Every spring, the soldiers in the trenches noticed that the poppies grew over the graves of their friends who had been killed.
When the war ended and the soldiers came home, they still remembered their friends who were buried in Flanders when they thought of the graves. They remembered the poppies that grew around the graves. They decided that they would wear a poppy each year to show that they still remembered their friends.
And that tradition has continued to this day thanks to millions of Canadians who wear flowers each November. The little red plant has never died. Each November, Canadians remember the 118,000 fellow citizens who died in battle.
The poppy is also worn to remember those who were lost in peacekeeping missions, as well as the soldiers who died in Afghanistan.
Thank you, Yara and Alexia. Miss Ramsay will now lead an ensemble playing the song Peace Round.
Merci à Madame.
Mic check.
Mic check. Next, Tayton and Eunice will tell us about John McCrae, the man who wrote the famous poem In Flanders Fields.
John McCrae was a member of the Canadian Medical Corps. He went into the line at Ypres on the 22nd of April 1915. For 17 days and nights, the Allies withstood wave after wave of the attacking enemy.
Lieutenant Colonel McCrae worked in a dugout attending to hundreds of wounded soldiers. In time, McCrae and his unit were relieved, and he wrote home, "We are weary in body and we are wearier in mind. The general impression in my mind is one of a nightmare."
John McCrae came away from Ypres within 13 lines scrawled on a scrap of paper. The lines were a poem, which started, "In Flanders fields the poppies blow."
The poem first spread as a folk song by word of mouth and is now read at many November ceremonies. The poem speaks specifically of Flanders fields, but reminds us of brave men and women around the world who gave their lives to preserve freedom.
Merci, Tayton et Eunice. Now, Kiana and Caroline will read In Flanders Fields in English, and Brett will share the French version.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scars heard amid the guns below.
We are the dead short days ago. We lived, saw dawn, saw sunsets go, loved and were loved, and now we lay in Flanders field.
Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from falling hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high.
If ye break the faith with us who die, we shall not sleep through poppies grow in Flanders
fields.
In Flanders fields.
Au champ d'honneur, le coquelicot, son parsemé de l'eau à l'eau, auprès de quoi et dans l'espace, les alouettes devenues lasses, mais le chant au sifflement de abusé. Nous sommes morts, nous qui songions la veille encore, à nos parents, à nos amis. C'est nous qui restons ici, au champ d'honneur.
Good job, Brett, Caroline, and Kiana. At this time, Honor and Fatima will explain the bugle calls and their importance in Remembrance Day.
Explanation of bugle calls. We are going to hear two bugle calls which are always sounded at this time of year. The first is called Last Post. The last post is played at the funeral of a soldier. It is the last farewell to a brave comrade who has given his or her life to preserve our freedom.
After the wreath has been placed, Last Post will sound. Then there will be a period of silence during which we should all bow our heads and think about what Remembrance Day means to us.
Then Reveille will sound. Reveille is played in army camps to awaken the soldiers to their duties. Today it reminds us of the hero's entry into a new and better life that awaits all good and brave people.
While all of this is taking place, let's do our best to stay silent and take time to reflect and honor those who gave it all for us.
Merci, Hanor, and Fatima. Now the wreath will be brought forward by Alexia.
After this, we will play Last Post, observe 2 minutes of silence, and conclude with Reviel.
Please stand.
Please take a seat. In 1917, the Canadian Army achieved the goal of winning a battle at Vimy Ridge in France against the German Army at a time when the other Allied forces had failed to do so.
There were many Canadian casualties, many young soldiers were killed, and many were wounded. Since that day, Canada has been an important member of many international military operations and peacekeeping missions. We are proud to honor their memory today.
In 2007, Canada commemorated the 90th anniversary of the battle at Vimy Ridge. At that service, the song "I'm Dreaming of Home" was sung. Mr. Hann will play that video now.
Thank you. Thank you for participating in the solemn ceremony of remembrance.
Do I say it?
No, skip it. Mr. Nyarkos will now give directions for dismissal.
This is for the ones who heard the fight for freedom calling, and for the ones who answered, I'll do what I can. For the ones who ran to battle, who believed that freedom mattered, well, this is for you. And this is for the ones whose orders took them to the front line. For the ones who fell and never made it home. And for the ones who came back broken, with memories too hard to be spoken, this is for you. We remember, and we are thankful, and we are grateful, and we know freedom isn't free. Oh, we you gave, the price you paid, it's not in vain, and it will never be forgotten, 'cause we remember. And this is for the ones whose war was wandering and waiting, and for the moms and dads and families back at home, those with pictures by their beds who had to learn to live again. Oh, this is for you. We remember, we are thankful and we are grateful, 'cause we know freedom isn't free. Oh, we remember, yes, we